everybody, and welcome back. It is time for Misfits Racing League action. It's been a week off. It's been a very lovely week off, I have to say. I enjoyed it for myself very much. I hope all the drivers had some good time to themselves. Maybe not too much practice, maybe not too much F1, but we're finally back. And well, I say we're finally back, and I mean me and the drivers. Unicorn, he's back, but he'll be with us in just a few moments. He's not quite here yet. A little bit of a shift in his schedule might mean he joins us a little bit later. Maybe we'll work it out so that he can join us in the races effectively instead of kind of rushing to get into qualifying. But I'm very happy to see everybody in the chat welcoming us back to racing, and it's great to see everybody, and it's a full lobby pretty well here already, and I'm just going through myself, just making sure that we have everybody dialed into the lobby, and we'll be waiting on Unicorn in a few moments. But with that, we're coming into a very iconic racing round. It is the 6th round of MRL racing action, of course. We are here for Japan. We're here for the Suzuka International Racing Circuit. It is going to be a very, very epic campaign around, well, what has been an iconic circuit through Formula One throughout history. It is the only Formula One circuit on the calendar with a figure 8 configuration. And quite a figure 8 configuration it is. And we have some very iconic turns here, and we've had some iconic moments in the MRL throughout seasons past here. Who could forget the iconic Alex is off moment in season 2? We've had so many more since then. And of course, we have the 6th round. We move through to Britain, Azerbaijan, of course, Hungary, Singapore, France, Spain, Austria, Mexico, and Brazil. And we'll have another break week between Singapore and France as well. Now we're just getting things dialed in. You can see the calendar, but more importantly, let's take a look at the standings. As I'm trying to multitask and give you guys a nice production, we're getting ourselves the drivers into the lobby. Everything's coming together. The puzzle piece, all the pieces are in, and we're just getting them sorted into place now. And I think with that, we'll just be ready to go racing. But mentioning the standings, we've got Disaster atop of them, 66 points for the Alfa Romeo Grenade Garand there in the Haas with 65. It is a 1-point differential between the pair going for the championship of this Tier 4 division. Polypunk, the Ferrari, he isn't too far behind, while Jones hunts him down 4 points, the gap between them. Rick Sam, he has 40 points in the top 5. Ferrari leading this championship, 95 points to their constructors, and we have Alfa Romeo with 91. And Haas with 89. It's a very tight championship. As you can see, McLaren and Mercedes are extremely tight. So tight, in fact, that they're tied with 51 points. That is going to be a very, very intense showdown through the season as we come into round 6, of course. Now, just about ready to go racing here. We're just going to see if everyone is in the lobby and if everybody is ready to go. I think we do have Mr. George Unicorn with us now. George, are you there?
I am indeed, Striffer. I've arrived a little late, but better late than never, of course, and very, very excited to see how we kick things off here in Suzuka, of course. And well, Tier 4, you know, you've been mentioning, Striffer, very, very tight division, very, very heavily contested championship, both on the driver and the constructors level. And Suzuka, well, that can be very exciting. It's a very technical circuit, a lot of tricky areas to navigate, and we'll just see, you know, who comes out on top tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very good race. Dynamic weather is going to be in the equation. Of course, there is a potential for, and the drivers have been made aware of it as well, there is a potential for desync in the current state of the game, so I will note that. And I want to take a big moment to thank everybody that's come into the stream today already to welcome us back to round 6 of season 5. We've got Mickey Mouse with the resub, Universe with the follow, and Mr. Rutanius with the resub and the gifted sub to Undertaker, and we greatly appreciate all of the support in the streams and in the chat for the races. And well, with that, we have everybody in. I think we're just giving it one final look over, and then we'll get all of these drivers readied up and racing into 18 minutes of qualifying and then 27 laps around this figure 8 Suzuka racing circuit.
Yeah, and it's always worth pointing out as well that at Suzuka, of course, the chance of rain pretty high. Wet race here, not too uncommon, and we'll see whether we see that tonight, of course, and that would throw a spanner in the works for everyone. This track already, like I mentioned, tricky, technical, but if you add rain into the mix, could make that even more difficult. You know, that run down into turn 1 on that first lap Everyone just trying to get rotated around through turn 2 as well. That sort of one long right-hander, it sort of combines to make, can cause issues in the opening stages. But obviously rain makes the whole track just that little bit slippy as well. And the curbs as well, Striff, they've changed obviously since the last time we were here in the new game. And what we saw before, you know, coming through Dunlop, maybe that you could just slip, finding yourself spinning off there. I wonder whether we'll see more of that. And there's a lot of tricky curbs here. So we'll see what happens. But 20 seconds on the countdown time. We are going into qualifying now.
Thank you to Mr. Captain Miner with the resub. We have Arsenal fan with the follow, and of course we really appreciate that support. We have all the drivers getting themselves readied up now, and we are going to be loading into, that's right, Japan. This is probably top 5 of my favorite racing circuits, period. And I think that it is a favorite for many. However, you do have, well, I've come to find the odd man out that does not necessarily enjoy Suzuka, but it is such an iconic circuit. Well, here we have the 20 drivers. Unicorn, why don't you take us through who we have on the grid this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Kane up the top there in the McLaren with Undertaker, four-door sedan, Tatstis, Lars, Jones, Alberto Perez, Big Tabina, Fabry Flame, XTXP, Becario, Trixam, Alexander Jew, Super Noodle Bagel, Polypunk, Disaster, Championship Leader, Grenade Goran, the man hunting him down in P2, IDJ there in the AlphaTauri, Bakalu in the Haas, and then MVP Kieran rounding out tonight. So we've got a full grid of 20 drivers. You'd love to see it. And so far, so good in terms of the weather. Looking very dry here in qualifying. And I wonder whether we can get a weather report coming across in the chat. But a lot of the times when it's a dry qualifying, you do see a dry race as well.
Undertaker coming through to say that there will be some rain in the equation this evening. Trixam will be the leader of the racers out of the pit lane this evening in the McLaren on the medium compound tires.
Yeah, interesting choice from him. I think we'll probably see most people just try it on the softs, you know, just get that fast lap time in around here. You don't want to be, you know, out of the top 10 really. Overtaking though, not too impossible around here, particularly, of course, down into the Casio Triangle, down that huge, you know, run from Spoon all the way through. And I'm sure we'll see plenty of action through there. But Sector 1, not ideal. Obviously, Turn 1 possible for overtakes. But throughout the rest of the track, there are tricky moments to find a move. Here with Trixam, the hairpin. They could try and lunge up the inside there, or maybe go all the way around the outside. But either way, overtaking around here, possible in a lot of areas. But a lot of the times, it is tricky to just get the right scenario for it. As we come now through the Spoon curve with Trixam.
Spoon curve, we've seen it before where it can catch drivers out on that exit. You can catch the toe into the gravel. You can find yourself in a wall. It can give yourself a little bit of a headache, without a doubt.
And Trixam now lining us up for the first flying lap of the race. And he crosses the start-finish line. DRS enabled then from the only DRS section on this track down into turn 1, and he comes through there nice and quickly, high on the entrance speed through turn 2, trying to carry as much speed through as we come now to the S curves, of course. 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 opening up onto the Dunlop curve, of course. And so far so good for Trixam. Not too quick through there, but again stable, not spinning the car out of this early stage. A big snap. It looks like there might be bit of a connection, at least for me, on that one. Then coming through the first of the two Degners. Again, nicely done through there, using a little bit of the curb on the inside and a little bit on the outside, but I reckon he can take more through there as he comes up now towards turn 11, the big hairpin at the top end of the track after coming out from under the bridge. Obviously, this is the only figure of 8 track on the F1 calendar. Now coming through the right-hander of turn 12, approaching Spoon now, 13, and now opening up into 14. Very nicely done so far for the McLaren. Now firing it down this huge, long straight. Again, plenty of opportunities to overtake here with a good slipstream. No DRS though. So it is a little bit tricky now as he flies through 15 down towards the Casio Triangle, the final 3 corners of the track, through 16, 17. Nicely done all of the curb on the inside there, and then keeping it tight to the pit wall as he comes out of 18. The last corner, it's a 129 flat to open us up here in the McLaren.
Very nice lap there. Just getting things settled over here on a technical side as Grenade Garan comes through at 29.370. He's done that on the soft compound tires. Grenade, of course, he is second position in this championship as Polypunk, the 29.015 out of the Ferrari, looking mighty quick. Or Strixam on the mediums, really turning some heads, surely, given the lap times coming out of the soft runners at the moment.
Yeah, really nice time from him on that medium right now. And obviously it's early days as Alexander goes fastest to 128.9, but even that only a 10th faster as Disaster, championship leader at 128.9. So maybe, like you said, does this appeal to some of these guys on the softs? Maybe, you know, can I do a little bit faster when the track gets to a better condition? Can I start pushing on the mediums? There's a few more times to come through. Lars Bacalou there in all the way down on 129.8 and Lars on a 129.7. So time to find for them.
Yeah, a lot of drivers still yet to set times. Certainly 8 times on the board as more racers will continue to come through the final section. TXP coming into the Casio Triangle. The Alpine racer will be looking to start as his teammate 4-door sedan finished, and his rival Mr. Super Noodle Bagel there 32.18. They are separated by a very tight margin, less than a tenth between them in 9 and 10.
Yeah, Beccario, we'll see what he can do in the Williams as he comes down towards the Casio Triangle. And it's not been a bad lap from him, but doesn't look like he's pushing too hard here. I think he's gearing up for another go. It's a 129.9, so not the slowest time we've seen. We've got a couple of 130s there, but still, like I say, time to find as Jones comes through at 130.1. So a little bit of a time differential so far. 128.9 our fastest, and 130.2 our slowest. But again, maybe this is people sort of slowing down at the end of their runs because they've seen that medium time from Trixam.
Yeah, it could just be a soft banker. You never know. This will be the first time we've really had a major representation of a race around Suzuka in the F1 2021 release. We haven't done much racing here otherwise. And of course, this will be the first of what we have 6 races this week. All things, hopefully, knock wood, go well this week. And we don't have to take any larger measures as we've seen some other leagues have to take due to the desync and some of the issues. XTXP, he will be flying through to set a time here in the Alpine. He is on the medium compound tires, and he will hug things very tight to that inside line. As he draws it to the line, it will be good to jump DJ by a very tight margin there. 30.679 coming out of XTXP, whereas DJ, 37.02.
Yeah, both very close together, but nowhere near the medium time of Trixam. They're about a second and a half off. And Trixam, speaking of the McLaren, who was first out of the garage, he's now out on the soft. So we'll see what sort of time he can produce here, because this is an important benchmark that he's about to lay down. Because his time on the mediums is absolutely rapid. His time on the softs, well, that should be even faster. And, well, he's only a 10th off of pole. So the McLaren here could absolutely fly past everyone else. He's only got 4 cars ahead of him, and everyone else has either not set a lap time or has done it on the soft, with the exception of XTXP and IDJ, who are considerably down on everyone else's times, considering they're on those mediums. So something is going very, very right in that McLaren garage, and that setup must be absolutely perfect. And Trixam must have really put in the hours this week, because he's absolutely flying so far. He's 5th on the timing tire, he's 5th in the standings, and I'll be looking to maybe climb that a little bit with a good result here today. And if he starts as he means to continue, Shift, it looks like he'd very much do that.
Yeah, he's just flying into 130R now, and of course the McLarens in reality have really been stepping it up. I imagine that's going to breathe life into anybody that gets to fly that papaya through any circuit, league racing or otherwise. And now Trick Sam, he is going to take us through his second run of the evening.
Well, DRS open for the McLaren, down the start-finish straight again. And flying towards the first couple of corners. Turn 1, carrying the speed and the momentum through into turn 2. All of the curb on the exit used on the exit now through the S curves. Getting through the first couple nicely now into turn 5, flowing through into turn 6 and exiting to turn 7. The Dunlop curve here, this long left-hander that follows you all the way around until you get to the Degner curves. The first one they're using all of the curve on the inside. You could see the aggressive bump that the new game gives you, using much more of the curve this time than he did on that first lap. So you can tell he's pushing here. He's going for a big improvement now into the hairpin, tight to the inside. Very, very nice line there from the McLaren. Firing it out now, out of the hairpin through turn 12. This very slight but very quick right-hander here, all the way down into Spoon now. 13, 14, the two combining to make one long left-hand curve and then exiting again using all of the curve on the outside. Now the long run down into 130R, flat through there, of course it will be before he approaches the Casio triangle. Here he comes through 130R, flat on the pedal and really just hugging the left. They're not running as wide as you see some people doing it. Now into the Casio triangle, 16, 17 again, all the curbs utilized. Coming out of 18, really hugging the wall, keeping it as close to the pit wall as you dare. And there it is, a 128.467. That is a huge half a second clear of championship leader Disaster's time. And that is a huge gauntlet to throw down here. And a statement has been made by Trick Sam.
Well, I'll tell you something, Alexander Zhu, Unicorn, oh my, I was about to say some real great things, and now I've got to say some not so great things. He was coming out of the second Degner, and he snapped it into the right-hand wall, but he was up 2.5 tenths flying through into that section of circuit, according to the Delta. Now he's got someone moving in behind him there. And that was not backload. That's Grenade Garan, who may have very well been invalidated as a result of that issue.
Polypunk, Chef, he's just gone very, very close to Trick Sam, and Big Tabina's come through as well. 128.5 for Polypunk, or 128.7. So faster time starting to flow through now. Everyone's on the soft, so no one is going to go for that medium run. And well, maybe we're starting to see a little bit more of the true pace of the grid now. Alexander and Grenade both coming into the pit lane, not happy with their lap times. One person, Disaster, he's just been sort of chilling in the pit lane. He hasn't come out since his first run, and I wonder what his thought process is behind that.
Yeah, very interesting to see Disaster not get in a second run before the final, that calm before the storm, and then the track evolution comes in nicely for everybody. He could just be wanting to save a set of softs. You only get 3 sets of softs to utilize in the qualifying. You get that 1 set of mediums. DJ right now, he's pushing. He's coming out of the second Degner, pushing into the hairpin.
Backlu, he's just gone on 129.478, so brings himself up a nice improvement from him of just over 3 tenths.
Notable for DJ and of course XTXP on this grid, as DJ unfortunately runs it a touch wide through Spoon. He just took a bit too much of that exit curb, that outside curbing flowing through Spoon. XTXP and him both setting those times on the medium. Definitely more pace in it for them, and we'll have to see if DJ comes in, or if he does have that. No, he has that fuel light on. Surely he'll be on the way in.
And speaking of fuel lights, Jeff, Tastis was on for a pretty big improvement, and he's run out of fuel, and that's his first run. So trying to really run low fuel hasn't worked out for the Ferrari. He's managed to pit back to the pit lane though with no problems, but only one more run now for him. Undertaker to the line. He improves by over half a second, 129.658. And just behind him, Super Noodle, well, he comes across in 11th, a 129.783, so just behind the Alfa Romeo.
Now, anyone watching this evening that is wondering how this race is being hosted, I'm sure there are a couple of people wondering. Crampy's just coming in the chat to ask. Timing is great, Crampy. I am hosting this personally from a spectator POV. We are in the standard unranked session style as normal, and with that, I have not seen any major desync issues as of yet. However, knock wood, we haven't jumped into the race where they're more known. So, fingers crossed.
The race has been where the real problems have arisen, but so far so good here in qualifying, and I don't think we got a huge delay at the start either, so that was, a little bit hopeful there. I've just seen Vicario on his in-laps, Jeff. You've ended up the lap of 1:29.785, just 2,000ths behind Super Noodle's time. Just lost it a little bit. It wasn't a huge loss, but it found him in the grass, and he tapped the end plate off of his car on the wall coming out of turn 2. So catching a few drivers out here on outlaps, and obviously you're not pushing on an in-lap, sorry. But still, mistakes starting to creep in for a few. Fabry Flame, I think, the only driver out on track right now who is flying in the Aston Martin. We'll see what he could do. He's one of 2 drivers yet to set a lap time, and Kene being the other in the McLaren. You've got one at the top and you've got one at the bottom of the timing tower. Coming through out of the first Degner into the second, and under the bridge he goes. Reflame pushing up towards the hairpin now, and obviously no benchmark time to compare it to in terms of the delta on his previous best, and with just 2.5 minutes in the session, he's really left it to the dying stages to get the job done. His teammate right now out of the points, Alberto Perez, 14th at 1:29.9, so we'll be aiming to beat that, I'm sure. But Alberto Perez right now, 14 of the 15 points that the Aston Martin have scored this season here in Tier 4.
I'm getting a little bit of rubber band snapping out of his car. I don't know if you're getting that on your end, but he is coming through into the Casio Triangle now to finish out what will be his one-shot qualifying lap here. The 1:30.301, 17th position to stand now for the Aston Martin.
Yeah, and a little bit of news, a disaster, 2/10 down on his previous best through Sector 1, so maybe he'll regret not coming out a bit earlier in the session, and well, that's going to be a problem for him. He's heated up the rears and he's spun it coming out of the hairpin. Now this opens up a few windows of opportunities. Polypunk right now, well, here he's coming through on a fly. He's currently P2. There's Disaster still holding off. Hopefully he doesn't get disqualified for being parked in a dangerous location, because, well, he has got it turned around, so luckily that isn't going to happen, and there is definitely a little bit of rubber banding going on, at least from a spectator point of view, because I'm seeing it as well now. I had it earlier, I have it now as well, but nothing too groundbreaking as the Ferrari fires out of the spoon curve and now down towards 130R, and he's up on his time by just under 2/10, so this could be enough to see him take the top spot away from Trixam, who is out on an outlap right now and will be going again, and well, he's right behind the Ferrari as Polypunk comes to the lights at 1:28.398, so a nice time from him, but with track evolution there is every opportunity for Trixam to take this back from him, but he has to make no mistakes here on this final run. And he's been looking strong all evening, so you don't expect it, but anything can happen in league racing. We've seen it before. The timer showing 15 seconds left, and well, he's already on the fly, so he'll be fine there. It's a little bit shaky coming off the curb, and he doesn't look confident coming through out of 5 and into 6, but he has soldiered on through now, coming through the Dunlop curve. And well, he didn't look confident, and he's lost over half a second, Striff. I don't think you can recover that.
With Alexander here, Unicorn, and he's about to gain a huge chunk of time to the final run here, and there he goes to pole position, a 28.378 coming out of the Red Bull. Trixam now. I don't know if he's going to be able to answer this.
I don't think he can. I don't think he's got time. Obviously, the session's over for us. No one's caught the flag yet. Be interested to see if Undertaker does. He doesn't, so the session's not over for the drivers, but Trixam is not in any hurry. He's in the gravel trap letting flyers by. And there it goes. So Disaster's caught the flag being in the pit lane, as has Fabry Flame and Kane, who doesn't set a time. So Trixam won't be improving. Disaster won't be improving. And this is interesting. Big Tabina won't be improving. He's off in the gravel shop, and he's on a flyer. So there's a lot of people who have not got their last laps in. Polypunk obviously did very well, went a little earlier. Alexander, well, he's come a little bit of a dark horse late on in the session. Are we going to have a few more here as Alberto Perez comes in? 6th quickest here at 1:29.227. A nice improvement from him. Does someone like Backloot, who's just come off into the grass, so he's not going to be up there. But does someone like Larstrom, someone like Undertaker, who hasn't really been that high up? Ford of Sedan goes 12th fastest. That's where he'll be finishing or lower. But Lars is on for 2/10 of improvement here as someone else has flown up the order. That was XTXP, I think, into 7th, the 1:29.3. But there's opportunities here. If it was a bad first lap, as that was Super Noodle Bagel at 1:29 flat. What does Lars do? Well, he goes some slightly faster at 1:29 flat as well, and he goes 6th fastest. Becario's gone into 8th place. So the Williams, they've both just slotted themselves home nicely into the top 10.
Very nice runs. Very nice runs coming to the line here.
10th place for him.
Oh, he'll be happy with that. He likes
about
it
it
here.
Undertaker, I think, was the last lap, and it's 11th place for him. Unless Tatsis has got something to do, it doesn't look like he does. So I think there's qualifying over, and well, I think the likes of Trixam, Big Tabina, and Disaster a little bit lucky there with what we saw on their last qualifying runs, and they've managed to stay in the top 5, but Alexander and Polypunk taking full advantage of the situation and fly to the top. But a great last minute lap from the Red Bull to take pole position here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, this grid, is it ever tight. You look from first all the way down to, well, 4-door sedan in 17th position. The separation is 1.1. And this is a circuit that can really present such a fun race. We'll have to see how everybody navigates through Sector 1, and of course we'll have to see how everybody navigates from the potential problems that may arise in this evening's lobby. Again, everyone in the race this evening has received a bit of a heads up and an advisory, if you will, just to keep things cool and collected, as you never know what may just fly at you. And of course, once again, what a qualifying Alexander in the Red Bull. A very solid time coming out of the Swedish driver. Polypunk there in the Ferrari. A very, very tight margin. Polypunk taking multiple pole positions in this season. Alexander said, "Not today, my friend." And it was Trixam. Was so quick today in the qualifying for McLaren. Rounding out our top 3. Rain
it just didn't
on
get
the way.
that final run in. And, you know, Disaster with that spin. Big Tabina was off in the gravel as well at one point. So these kind of mistakes, if they creep in the race, and like you said, we are expecting some rain. I don't know how much. I don't know if it's going to be at the start, at the end, like we saw in Russia, of course, in real life, and that really caused.
It's at the start, all right. I'll tell you that.
I've just loaded in, and now I can see what you're seeing, and yep, it doesn't look that heavy. It's definitely intermediates, I should think, but I don't think we'll be seeing the full wets yet. It depends, though. Which way does it go? Does it get worse, or does it get lighter, or does it stay the same throughout the whole evening? That's what we want to see. Changeable conditions. They're always the most fun to watch. They create great confusion in that pit lane. We saw it in real life. We've seen it plenty of times here in MRL. And if, you know, the drivers, obviously some of them will have engineers, and there are intermediates left, right, and center as the Ferrari decides to go and then comes back on my screen. But it is intermediates for absolutely everyone, and obviously that negates any advantage for starting outside of the top 10 on those, on that choice of tire that you get, rather than starting on what you qualified on. But on pole, going over it once again, we have Alexander Dew there up at the top. Alongside him, Polypunk in the Ferrari. Then Trixam in the McLaren. Big Tabina in 4th, making it 2 Red Bulls on the front 2 rows. Then Disaster, championship leader, span out on his final qualifying lap, finds himself in 5th. Lars starts 6th with Super Noodle Bagel behind him. And then Lars' teammate Becario and the other Williams in 8th place. Alberto Perez starts 9th with IDJ alongside him rounding out the top 10. Then we have Undertaker in 11th, XTXP in 12th, Renee Goran ahead of the two Mercedes. Jones and Kieran start 14th and 15th respectively. Baklu cements the both of the Mercedes between the Hasses in 16th, with four-door sedan starting 17th. Fabry Flame starts 18th, Tastis starts 19th, and Kane didn't set a lap time in qualifying, will start at the back of the grid in the McLaren. And obviously, like we mentioned, everyone on the intermediates with the conditions. So nothing to go over in terms of tyre choice and strategy there.
One thing to note, we've gone through all the driver onboards, and of course we went through to see the connections of the drivers, and we apparently have everybody on the grid with the exception of Kane, who has had an issue.
Hopefully you can get back into the session. I think you should be able to. As Alexander Polypunk come out of the final corner, start to take their places on the grid. 27 laps here around Suzuka, and well, the race time will be just a little bit longer with the elongated lap times that the rain does bring us. And well, it's not exactly a short run into turn one. And the start here, very important. Polypunk, if he gets a good start, he's on the inside into that first corner, and we've seen it before here in Suzuka as we just wait for the last few cars to take their places on this grid strip.
I'm very excited for this one, Unicorn. It is going to be 27 laps of wet intensity based on what we're seeing right in front of us as the final drivers now bring themselves into position on the grid. We will have the light sequence engage, and then of course, Unicorn, take us away.
Well, here we go. We've got 3, 4, 5 red lights here on in Suzuka. The engines are revving. They're not going yet, though. Polypunk started for me as Undertaker gets a drive-through penalty, so he has started before the lights, as there is a bit of a problem with Polypunk. Trixam struggling as now Big Tabina is looking around the outside of the McLaren down into turn one. The Williams of Becario is up 3 places. He is on the inside. He's looking for a 4th on the Big Tabina here as there's a yellow flag. I think we've got green flag racing. We do, as the track map was a little bit confused. There's been positional sorts everywhere. Super Noodle Bagel 8 places down as Baklu goes off into the grass in the Haas, keeps it out of the wall though, and he will be very happy with that. Kieran is missing his whole front wing. Kane continues to have connection issues as the Alpine of Fordos and Alberto Perez goes side by side, but again, problems between the two as Alberto Perez has no end plate on the left hand side. And here goes Becario looking for a way past Big Tabina. He's been looking to find a way past the Red Bull. Looks on the inside into the hairpin. Ooh. The Red Bull's turned in a little early there. And well, the Williams is through, and I think it'll just be wheel-to-wheel contact, so no damage, I shouldn't think, for either car. But Becario on a real charge here at the start of this one, as Baklu has another problem here. Disaster on the rear of the Big Tabina. It's just hanging back here. You can see everyone just trying to manage the pace here in the wet, but what a start to this race.
Well, it's a very, very intense race. Alexander Zhu, Polypunk, Trixam holding station in the top 3. Becario, well, you mentioned it. He's had one heck of a charge here through this field to open things up. Big Turbina not going to be too thrilled about that move and that clash in the hairpin, but Disaster in that Alfa Romeo leading this championship right now is going to need to make up some ground if he wants to hold on to it, because these Ferraris, well, they're in a very good position, all things said and considered, as constructors right now leading this championship. Grenade Garan, however, in 2nd position in the championship, is in 12th position as Alberto Perez pits in that Aston Martin. Kane, well, one heck of a lap from him, a 40.5 according to the race control. Surely there's an issue there, as he's definitely been plagued by some connection error in this session. Undertaker with the penalty, the lone penalty on the board, and that's that drive-through we saw him take off the line. I have to say, pretty daring for him not to serve it immediately, as you never know what safety car potential can come under wet conditions. DJ up into 8th position. He started this one in 10th as Becario has joined the penalty club. He's taken 5, and that's because he's gone off track into the wall, and Unicorn, he's got major damage.
Yeah, you don't want that to be happening, at any point in this race. And well, now he's going to drop like a stone through this field. You'll feel, that he'll land himself somewhere behind Kane, I should think. And then the pit stop will probably throw him behind at least the Aston Martin of Alberto Perez. So a huge problem for him, but obviously safety cars always capable of reeling people back into things, as things are spreading out. The front three really tearing away here, and they're separate. Obviously no DRS on the horizon with the rain coming down as it is, but again, safety cars could bring things through as Disaster has a little slide coming out of the final corner. IDJ, he's had a problem coming out of the Casio triangle. He's dropping. Is there damage on the front of the AlphaTauri? There isn't. He's just going very, very slowly as he gets himself reacquainted with where he needs to be going, but no huge problems for him. Just a huge position drop, but he was up, so he's actually still where he started this race. Disaster didn't find a way through on the big Tabina, but he is looking very, very, aggressive. He wants to get through. You can see there's hunger in the way he's driving, but there isn't so much control. I don't know whether he's got the best West setup here, just because he just seems to be wrestling this car really through every single corner, whereas the guys up at the front, they just seem to be that little bit more comfortable, whether that's wet weather driving and that suits their driving style a little bit better. As four-door sedan goes at the inside of Super Noodle Bagel through the Dunlop curve, and he picks off 14th position. But something not quite right in Disaster's car. I think, maybe just not the wet weather specialist and doesn't have the pace that we've seen him have in the dry here, but never count him out. He's done some, great racing, some great stints, My mind wanders back to Zandvoort, where he took a huge monster sink on, I think, of the medium tires. So
that was a huge
maybe,
drive.
on the intermediates here, he could do something special with the tires on the strategy, but right now, struggling in terms of raw pace is the championship leader. His teammate Undertaker looking to hunt down Lars here for 6th place. They're about to come through 130R, and obviously now with the rain, they are lifting off a little bit. Not as confident on the throttle as they were in qualifying, and obviously heavy fuel load as well. All of those things to factor in. And well, Undertaker's into the pit lane.
Well, that's a drive-through penalty now coming for him. Of course, he had that jump start at the beginning, and still unclear as to whether or not there was a desync issue of some capacity there, and we'll follow up with him later. Meanwhile, Jones and DJ fighting for 8th position right now. Of course, we saw DJ struggle a few moments ago, and he was passed by Jones and XTXP. XTXP and Jones, they've been close and fighting, which was very good for DJ. It gave him an opportunity to catch things up. Now, that said, Undertaker coming into that pit lane, Grenade Garand, who heavily benefited from jumping into the rear end of DJ, he's in the points. Grenade Garand's a championship contender. He is tight to the rear of Disaster, and as you mentioned, Disaster has been struggling here in this session as well. It's anyone's race.
Oh, absolutely. And like I say, safety cars could shuffle things up, and getting the strategy, right or wrong here. The rain, it looks to be easing already, and I would not be surprised if we saw slicks by the end of this race, because it is still falling, but I don't know about you, Chip, but it looks like it's falling a hell of a lot less than it was when we started this race. So maybe we do see the track dry up. And you got to factor in as well, there's a big gap right now between the top 3 and everyone else. And whilst this is great, in normal circumstances, if the race, the track dries out the wrong time for them, they could be past the pit lane at that turning point. Everyone sneak in, and that's where the people behind in this big train start to catch up. And then if DRS gets enabled, they're in the train, they can start, really starting to lean off each other, as IDJ has a bit of a slide coming out of the final corner there in the AlphaTauri, but no overtakes coming as a result. But yeah, very much anyone's game. It's early days, lap 5 of 27. We'll just see what this race has got in store for us.
Here
but
goes back low on Super Noodle, tight through on the inside. He gives a little bit of a, I don't think there was contact there. I think he forced Super Noodle to go a little bit deep. He gave himself an open door. He moved through on the inside, and now you can see Backlow moving ahead of that AlphaTauri into 14th position. I liked that. There was a touch of contact once he was there on the inside when Super Noodle tried to kind of go, uh-oh. But there he is, into 14th position, a nice overtake. Now we've got Fabry and four-door. They're wheel-to-wheel as we come through Degner 1 and now Degner 2 inside for Fabry. And, well, four-door. gets that position. Very nice. Very nice. We're seeing some good racing here in the rain. So far, so good. Knock wood, no issues. And we'll see how that rounds out through the next few laps as things tighten up and everyone gets comfortable in these conditions, George.
Yeah, absolutely. It is about sort of settling, but you might not be able to settle if the conditions start to change. It looks to be sort of worse coming out of Spoon than it is going in. So maybe sort of varying weather conditions at various points at the track at the moment, and obviously still very clearly intermediates considering there's still standing water on the track. No dry line has formed as of yet, but as we progress through the race, I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, to see sort of slicks coming into play. Daz falling off a little bit through the Casio triangle, then he pushes down the start finish straight. He's done this lap after lap. He's never been close enough to even consider the overtake into turn one. But Grenade Goran, maybe, can he find anything through on IDJ through the opening two corners? No, he's not going to find anything there. Gets very, very close.
Super Noodle, Kane, Super Noodle, less than a tenth, less than 5/100ths of a second between these two as Kane wants to fish for that inside coming through turn one. Now he's going to have it back through on the outside of turn two. This is very, very risky. This is a very, very high intensity move right here. And he gets it done in the McLaren, ladies and gentlemen. And that is some fantastic action to witness right there.
And speaking of McLarens, I believe Trixam was just dropped quite substantially to Polypunk. I'm not sure whether the position was exchanged. It looked like it was, but he's now 1.3 seconds down the road from the Ferrari. And I wonder whether there was a mistake there that cost the McLaren so much time. No damage, though, on the car for the man who is in P3.
A little bit of separation forming among the top 7 now, as it is going to be XTXP under fire from PW Jones in the Mercedes. A little bit further back, DJ and Grenade, they have been continuing this battle in the final 2 points paying positions ever since we saw Undertaker come through into the pit lane for that drive-through penalty, of course. And so he'll still have to pit. Tatsis just breaking down that 1 second gap to Grenade as well. Things separate a little bit further back, 12 and 13 in couple of seconds of free air. You've got Baclau. Well, he's within half a second of the driver ahead of him right now as Jones, with the utilization of battery, pushing on the rear still of the Alpine.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see whether he's able to push through here. Lap 7, 20 to go here. And conditions still as Fabry Flame, Baclau do exchange. And there's been a lot of action into this first corner for the Aston Martin. And Baclau as well, he's been up and down in this race. Obviously, he had that incident at the start where he was off the track, but now starting to fight back a little bit, and you love to see that, fighting spirit come back through. Going back to Jones, though, close to the rear of XCXP, but again, in the dry, this isn't the easiest place to overtake. In the wet, it is pretty much impossible, and managing it well. I do think the rain has stopped falling as Free Flame loses yet another position. This time it's Kane around the outside of Dunlop, and the McLaren really charging through this field now. Very, very happy with his pace, I'm sure, as he pushes through into 14th and leaves Fabry in the dust as he comes out of the second Degner.
Might have been an issue, just to mention, there might have been an issue with Fabry on a connection level. I saw a little bit of rubber banding. I don't know if you saw it on your end there, but we'll keep an eye on it. XTXP right now, we saw, of course, him and Jones make their way through on DJ a few laps back. Right now, XTXP under fire still yet from the Mercedes as we come through 130R. Jones not wanting to tempt too much fate on that throttle, getting off as we come into the chicane. And, well, when we come through this Casio triangle, you can just see how difficult it is to get that power down to bring out the grip. And XTXP had a very good exit in comparison to Jones there to really give him some defensive capability into turn one. But look at Jones. Wow, was he ever late on the brakes?
Yeah, I think just trying something, trying to find a way through. You've got to be a little bit creative in these conditions to find a way through. And, I think everyone expects sort of up the inside to try and force the other car wide. but taking the long way around does work in the dry. In the wet, I don't think it's going to happen, as there's a bit of a slide from the Mercedes, a bit of oversteer there, has to correct it, does nicely to hold the car there and keep it pointing in the right direction. But that Alpine not really running away from him, as again has a little bit of a kick out from the rear, so definitely pushing. Kanay nice and close to Backlund, not finding anything into the first techno though. Again, pretty much impossible to overtake through here into the west. Does he get anything into the hairpin though? Backlund the better exit out of the second techno, and Kanay gonna back off into the hairpin just to give himself enough space to situate himself behind the Haas as they both sort of slide out. But again, I don't think it's raining anymore, Striff, so I think we're just gonna see everyone drag these intermediates out until the slicks are the right tire to be on. But the question is, when does that come about? Obviously, tires will start to die out. They've been on them since the start of the race, of course, and Alexander is about to cross onto his 9th lap of the race, so degradation will be starting to come into play, but they won't be feeling too bad yet, I shouldn't think.
Ooh. Dancing to that outside in the McLaren. Baclow closing the door. A little bit of contact, you heard it, and now we come into the Casio triangle. Less than 3/10 the separation here. We're going to flip back. Ooh, that's a big snap for the McLaren. That's going to drop him massively, as Jones still lunging through into turn 1 on the rear of XTXB, not quite able to get a toe in anywhere to push an overtake opportunity.
It's the time and tire playing a little bit of mind games with me. It's saying Trick Sam is less than a 10th behind Paulie Punk, but it's not the case. The leaders, though, still in this pack of 3. Not too close together, but definitely not leaving one another behind, as the timing tower for those 3 does seem to be sort of frozen. It's not updating, at least on my end, but in this midfield pack where things are very, very close and tight and heavily contested, there is updates going on, as Super Noodle Bagel, speaking of time, picks up 3 seconds to add to the end of his race. Multiple warnings there for extending track limits.
Yeah, he joins DJ. DJ's got 3 seconds, and then Baclow has 6. Kanay hunting him down, applying the pressure potentially here, forcing some errors.
As again, everyone being patient. Things will start to liven up though if this track does dry out. DRS is enabled, and this is exactly what I meant, because now look, the front 3 are past the pit lane. Big Tabina doesn't take the opportunity. Disaster, well, he will. He is in. The track though still looks very wet. Lars is in. XTXP is coming in too. And this is tricky. DRS is enabled, but there is standing water still on this track. But it's a pretty long lap. You know, somewhere, you know, very average, sort of 130 lap times. So it might be that the slicks are the right time. Mediums going on for a lot of drivers, and so far all mediums. As Kanay, that has to be a mistake from him. He's gone on to fresh inters, so that's going to hurt him hugely. I think maybe the connection issues there, maybe plaguing him a little bit. Super Noodle, he's getting a new front wing in the AlphaTauri, so a slow stop from him. But now, do these drivers on the mediums start to get quicker? Do they start to catch? And the answer right now is a resounding no through the S's. Daz, he's not dropping a lot, and well, he might be gaining a little. It's very touch and go here. It's about even, I think. So I think everyone who's on the intermediates now, as long as they come in this lap, will be okay.
Look how things have they've gotten so tight here in the top 3. We saw good separation before amongst these drivers. Now we've had an issue. That is an AlphaTauri. Who is that? That is Super Noodle Bagel, and he is sideways looking the wrong way, and now he's got things back going. The intermediate staying out once again here, and the medium runner's really a big gamble now when you think about the fact that Paulie Punk, Alexander Jew are towing one another along here in this little train with the DRS as well. They're going to get a little bit of pace out of that, surely.
Well, Daz has lost a lot of time through this second and into the third sector now, so potentially it's not time for the slicks. Maybe the game was enabled DRS a bit earlier as Tricksam Paulie Punk exchange. Paulie Punk they back into second through the S's. So I wonder whether there was an exchange going into turn 1 and turn 2 there between the two, and it was just sort of side by side for a long time. Lots more people hopping onto the mediums, but again, I don't necessarily know if this is the right call. As there's a yellow flag in the Casio triangle. It's Fabry Flame actually just before it. No front wing there. The wing is on the left of 130R. I wonder how he's made that mistake. Maybe just as a result of being on the wrong tires. As we have a VSC, I'm surprised because that debris is far from on track. But either way, we do have the VSC. He's coming in, of course, for a new wing and a fresh set of tires. But this is interesting. Daz, though, still dropping back. The gap was about 3.2. It's now 6.2. So intermediates still the right tires. But when do they not become the right tires? Because there will be that switchover point. It just hasn't happened yet, Striff.
Yeah, another thing to note here. Look at this gap between Polypunk and Alexander under this BSC. Everyone wanting to make sure they don't receive a drive-through penalty. We've already seen Undertaker, unfortunately, take one in this race. Now we see... Oh, this is bold. This is bold. Alexander Jew, the race leader in Polypunk, ladies and gentlemen, have entered the pit lane as Trick Sam now will take lead of the race, staying out onto his intermediate compound tires.
It's a great gamble from him, to be fair. I don't think it is time yet. I think it is still intermediate. It's close. It's going to be this lap or the next, as he's now really nursing his car through the S's. So, but I think that's just VSC. Is he able to throttle on now? I think the other two, it is looking a lot drier through the S's. There's still a few puddles here and there, but I think the gap is going to start closing sooner rather than later. And, well, there it is. I think we are going to start seeing it crumble down. Alexander is actually losing time as he clips the curb on the inside. He was going to be our benchmark, but now is he able to close back with the time that he just lost? Well, he's not. He's falling back a little bit.
I think this window is very narrow for Trick Sam, and we're going to have to see how it lands.
He comes in now, surely.
Well, oh, yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. We're going to see this McLaren coming into the pit lane. Anything otherwise is going to really raise some major concern at any level. And of course,
oh, it's dry now.
We have Polypunk here. This is another question. We saw Alexander Jew, Polypunk undercut effectively Trick Sam, or however you want to call it, Trick Sam, not coming in. Where does he land? He's going to come in, surely. He's coming into the chicane. The differential is about 16 seconds. 16 seconds. Here we go.
I think the biggest problem for Trick Sam is that the other two did it under VSC. It ended while they were in the pit lane. But there will have been a little bit of time saved there. Not a lot. But, well, Trick Sam won't have that as he comes into the bits.
DJ here. This is very... Alexander Jew navigating around DJ. Trick Sam says softs. This is interesting. Where does Alexander Jew fly out here? The tires are on, but Trick Sam is not going to make it out in time to catch up with Polypunk or Alexander. Big Turbina will be... I want to see what the gap is. Not going to get the gap, but... Oh, 6 seconds behind. That's dropping still through the S's. Very, very bold call there from Trick Sam. Not only to do the overcut and not go in, but now on these soft compound tires to the end of the race.
Yeah, Barte Perez. He's just come off through Spoon. No damage on the Aston Martin, but a knock to his confidence and maybe to the tires as well. I'm still curious as to why softs were the choice for the McLaren. They're going to be a little bit tricky to get to the end, but maybe he realized the mistake and just wants to catch up to the leaders. But if he has to pit again, well, it's going to be a lot more than a race win that he loses out on. He might lose the podium as well, depending on how well he can manage the tires and depending on, of course, whether we see another safety car. We haven't actually seen a full safety car yet. We've only had the VSC. As Jones looks to put pressure on Fordor, doesn't go for the lunge into the hairpin, but had he been positioned in a better way, might have been able to.
It was close. He definitely wanted to go, but I think... Well, that's in the pit lane, Mr. Fabry Flame. Retiring the Aston Martin. That will now be our first retirement of the evening.
Yeah, both Aston Martins have been struggling tonight. And it's a shame to see him go. Here goes Jones in the run out of Spoon, and the Mercedes with a lot of ERS utilization will breeze past the Alpine there. Right, hooks the rear, and that's a big slide out, and that is into the wall. He's still in this race, and I don't think he's got damage. Lucky for him, but he won't be feeling lucky right now. There's a very, very unfortunate incident. He's just hooked the curb in the wrong way there with the rear wheels, spun off in the traction zone, and found himself facing the wrong way.
That was very unfortunate, and as you mentioned, doesn't look to have damage. He's not coming in. Very, very unfortunate situation to find yourself in. Things not entirely dry, of course, and the curbs present so many different... Every time you hit a curb, it wants to behave, if your tire is even a slight degree different to the last time, it will behave differently, it would seem. Now we have a yellow flag coming through the hairpin.
Lars. I don't know if he's letting people by, but he's off the track. He smashes the Emirates line on the inside and is really off-roading here. He uses the old chicane that's there. I don't know what you call it chicane, but part of the old circuit, one of the other layouts that it has. But
not seeing any
definitely struggling.
Damage.
He's really struggling through Spoon, and he's losing the car. I don't know what's happening there with him, but that Williams really struggling as he wobbles the wheel a little bit. Everyone sort of spaced out.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's the only driver within a 1 second range here, and now there's another issue for, this will be an AlphaTauri. That was Super Noodle Bagel. And not clear what happened there.
Not a major incident, I don't think.
I think it's quite funny how these two wound up one another, following each other on track. You see that Grenade has moved up 7 slots, whereas Disaster's dropped 2. However, they've both had a stop. It was Disaster with that very early call to the mediums. Disaster leading this championship ahead of Grenade Garand by, if memory serves from our pre-show, 1 point at the moment.
It's a little more. I think it's 8, but right now, Grenade, considering his qualifying, this is a brilliant, damage limitation from him, and he's nailed the strategy with the switch from intermediates as there's a Haas off. It's Bacalou looking the wrong way, sliding out of Dunlop in the gravel. And again, no damage, but those tires are covered in stones, and you can see they're just gray rather than black, and they'll be feeling a little bit of a loss of grip, I should think. He just has to drive to get rid of that, but needs to be careful over the next few corners just to make sure he retains that.
Sam 33.734 coming in now, the fastest lap of the campaign here at Unicorn. We weren't going to get any kind of indicator because Kane is speed over in that other McLaren, according to our timing tower. However, Trick Sam pushing Ollie Punk within 2.5 of Alexander Jew with the penalty as well.
Catching XTXP here a little bit, and he's also up 7 places from where he started. And again, it's just as a result of really calling the strategy well. So fair play to the pair of them there, who've both found their way up with the right call. And it was a tricky couple of laps to decide when to come in and when not to, and a couple of people made the wrong call. Disaster, Trick Sam amongst them, Alexander and Polypunk. Well, they took full advantage of the mistakes of some of the other drivers in qualifying. They've done it again in the race, and they lead now 4.5 seconds between Trick Sam and Polypunk. And well, Alexander has a 2.8 second lead over the Ferrari. Plus, Polypunk has a penalty, so right now the Red Bull looking very comfortable in lead of things. He has, in effect, a 5.7 second gap to P2, and with just over 10 laps to go, I should think he's feeling quite comfortable, Striff, up in P1.
Well,
Yeah, that might have saved XTXP.
my mic was unfortunately muted for a moment there, but I have to say, this is a very interesting situation.
Well, we've got a couple drivers coming in. Softs seem to be the call here. 10 laps to go as we'll see what everyone else does. I wonder whether we see the leaders come in. I doubt it.
I think we do.
We'll have to wait and see. Trixam, well, he might have to do something here, depending on whether he thinks those softs can go to the end. If he thinks the safety car will preserve them enough, well, then he might get a few positions on track here. But the front two, they shouldn't lose out to too many people. They've got a big gap to Big Tabina. As such, they might be able to take advantage of this safety car. Alexander isn't coming in. He faked that one out quite nicely, but Polypunk's too far back for that to have been worth anything. If Polypunk was closer, I think that might have caused a problem, but he did it quite convincingly, but Polypunk was so far back that you could clearly see that Red Bull was not going into the pit lane. And once again, it is the Aston Martin, the newly added safety car into the game. Obviously, we've got 2 this year, and we only started with 1 in the virtual space, but we do now have the pair of them, and there it is in all of its glory. This also will bring everyone back together, so sort of negates the mistake if you made the wrong call on going to the slicks. Obviously, track position won't change up too much, but everyone will be bunched up. And the second half of the grid, they're all switching to softs. So with the exception of Becario there, and I'm surprised, I really think he should make the switch because otherwise he is just going to drop back. So I would be very surprised if he doesn't take advantage here. He won't lose any positions because Alberto Perez and Kieran are locked in the train, and I don't think he will lose enough time because he should be able to push right now. I don't think he'll have Delta.
These safety cars always make me so nervous because you never know when you're keeping things tight distanced. If you make even a remote touch of contact as a driver, you're taking 5 seconds. And it's a very possible that you'll give the driver you touch 5 seconds. And so it can be a very, very difficult dynamic when you're in a race because that's a frustration that sits with you when you're racing, although you can get them removed.
Absolutely, and I think it's at this stage of the race where everyone should be going to the end now. It's a little bit less concerning, but like you say, it does still affect you in the race, whether you have your, someone in your ear maybe saying, calm down, we can get that removed after the race. Is Alberto Perez? Well, that won't be removed after the race. That's a speeding in the pit lane infringement. And he's going, well, as a terminal of retirement.
Usually when we see that as blatant in this phase of a race, any kind of 5 second speeding in the pit lane, it's usually, I want to say, a 90%. I'm just going to throw that. I didn't add it up. We're going to go and throw a random percentage. I want to say 90% of the time it equals a retirement.
Yeah, it's a high chance, and it's the caliber of races here. You don't usually see the mistakes being made, but it does happen. But under safety car, you don't anticipate anyone to be picking up that 5 second penalty, and at least not by chance, not by mistake, and deliberate. Unfortunate, and it becomes another race where the Aston Martins don't score any points. They will stay down with just 15 right now, and with how IDJ's doing, maybe he can close the gap there. He's in the points. He started in the points. He qualified 10th. He's in 9th, and he's on the soft. So maybe options to climb here on the old aging mediums. So watch out for him. Watch out for the likes of Tatstis as well, because Kane, he's on 5-level old softs. They might die out towards the end. Trixam as well. The both McLarens are on those old softs. So I reckon they've got an engineer who's talking to them about what they should be doing. But yeah, IDJ, he does have a penalty, which is going to be a bit of a thorn in his side, but the Ferrari of Tatstis, Undertaker Jones, a lot of opportunities there for climbing into the points and some very, very important scoring opportunities. And well, we'll see what happens. The medium runners might be under threat. I don't think we're going to come in this lap because there's still a couple of cars behind, and we're across the threshold into sector 3 and it hasn't been recalled into the pit lane.
If it came in now, that would be a very difficult situation one would find themselves in to get temperature into these tires, and you can see it coming across and not coming in, thankfully, unless it's the start finish line and does something we've never seen before. You never know. You got to keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, with this game, you never know. Maybe the safety car is hidden for the racers and we're seeing something completely different. But right now, all is well, and we're just waiting on Becario to rejoin. So I think it's just Kieran in the mix, who's a back marker who's been lapped, and that is going to be tricky for him to resolve.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Because you can't overtake under the safety car and unlap yourself, unfortunately.
One thing I would like to mention is that this race, from a spectator point of view, definitely deserves a solid 2 thumbs up when you compare it to some of the issues that we've endured in last round's Italy race. So definitely enjoying this evening's race. Knock wood, we don't have any issues through to the end of the race here, but hopefully from a driver's perspective, it's been enjoyable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We, at the end of the day, obviously it's great for us to watch and have these races to spectate, but you want the experience to be as good for the driver as possible. They're the ones who are putting in the practice hours. They're the ones who are putting their time and investing that in trying to win these races. And with the issues that we've seen here and elsewhere, of course, that the game's provided after the most recent update, that's going to be frustrating, not just for us but for them as well, because they're putting in so much hard work to make themselves as fast as possible in these games. And when that all sort of is undermined by underlying issues, it can't be a nice feeling. But like you said, so far so good tonight, and hopefully it continues and we can round this one out. 7 laps. Safety car hasn't been called in yet. I imagine it will get called in when it crosses that timing line into the final sector, which is right about now. And there it is. Safety car in this lap, right on cue. So everyone getting heat into their tires as they come down out of Spoon into 130R, and Alexander will be leading the charge. Does Trixam have the temperature and the grip left in those 6-lap-old slots to get something out of this restart? He dropped off by going 1 extra lap on the inters, but maybe now that pays itself back with the safety car restart.
Anything he's going to do is going to have to happen immediately. Anything he's going to do needs to happen now. Alexander's away, and it's Polypunk in second position. Turbina was getting anxious. He had his wheels to the fronts of the McLaren. Right now, Trixam, great launch off the line here as we come into turn 1. I shouldn't say off the line. I should say across the line. DJ, Kane, they've exchanged.
Yeah, DJ won't be wanting to drop back. It was actually the back marker of Kieran with his wheels alongside Trixam, so I wonder whether that was slightly off-putting for the McLaren, but he's just trying to get out of the way. He's going well on pace, though. He hasn't held anyone up, but just a little eager there on the restart. Grenade really tight to the rear of XTXP. Does he find anything he needs to? Because he's got Disaster barking up his gearbox here as coming through the Degnar as they come, and, well, nothing doing, of course. And, well, overtaking opportunities are going to open up now that we're in the dry. Becario and MVP Kieran have exchanged.
Kane looking tight at the inside of four-door. It almost gave DJ an opportunity to get that position back, as now you can see Kieran just waves everybody through. Very unfortunate position to find yourself in when a safety car comes out and puts you behind the entirety of the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, Kane still on the hunt for the Alpine. He's made 1 move on this restart. Can he make 2? His tyres, though, they're going to be tricky here as through 130 they come. Four-door sedan a little bit wider to hide that inside line away from the McLaren, and it's worked this time around. Here we go, though, down into turn 1. Obviously, no DRS at this point. And the leaders, the front 3, once again have pulled away, and Alexander Dew already 1 second clear of the Ferrari, who's also got a penalty. So he's feeling very comfortable up at the front. No exchanges in the mid pack, and a pit stop for Super Noodle.
Disaster tight with Grenade, of course. XTXP behind Turbina, leading a bit of a train Turbina right now on those mediums as we've got an issue. It's Beccario. He's called it into the pit lane and they've retired the car. Not something you want to see, but we are now down to 15 drivers, Kieran included, as he has been lapped. Disaster with a bit of a cut there, maybe a warning given to him. Coming through that first Degner, well, he tries to hold on with Grenade. Everything tight as we come into the hairpin. Trick Sam, within 1 second of Polypunk. You mentioned a few moments ago, Alexander has done well to push away from Poly. Poly with the 3-second time penalty is really going to hinder him, but what's gone on here is that Trick Sam has held Poly. Turbina, with that back marker, potentially having an issue to stay with these front three. Mind you, the front three have been the front three all race long. They have been in a class of their own on pace tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. The time and tire now for me just coming back. But there really has been this really tough fight in the midfield as XTXP is looking at Big Turbina into the Casio triangle. Went to the left, went to the right, just couldn't find a way through. And the Red Bull making that car very, very wide through there. And that's exactly what he needs to do at the front of this train. The problem he has is that DRS isn't far away. Obviously, only the one opportunity to use it, and well, slipstreams around here still pretty powerful on their own. But turn one is going to become his worst enemy next lap, I should think, or probably the lap after, as there's a yellow flag, and I don't know what that's for. There's no one there, so a little bit odd there. Another glitch, and we've seen that one before in a few instances.
The major train right now, Turbina, from 4th position all the way down to 14th position, has a major herd of drivers pushing him. 4.3 seconds, the gap growing to the podium potential finishers in front, and that means that Polypunk and Alexander Ju, who also picked up 3 seconds now, well, they have a safety for their podium. I'll tell you what they don't have a safety for is a win, and Trick Sam is going to be very happy to see that black and white ahead of him on his timing tower.
Yeah, and well, Alexander making up that 3 seconds, and well, the timing tower still playing a few mind games with me, and we'll see what happens towards the end. Those penalties could play a role. But there's not a lot of time left, and there won't be a lot of time left for any safety cars either to make their penalties more costly. But Trick Sam, this race has been up and down, a real roller coaster of an evening for him. He was so dominant at the start of qualifying, then had the mistake in the last lap. Now he was so good at the start of the race, held on to the front two, then made the wrong call.
A little bit of a love tap, I think, coming out of Disaster on Grenade there. He's taken 3 seconds. I'm not sure if that was for a bit of an extension or if that was because of the contact.
Grenade right on XTXP as well, but almost has a snap, and Disaster has to ease off through Dunlop to avoid running into the rear of him. If that was a different corner, maybe on a different track, he would have just breezed on by, but luckily for Grenade, Dunlop isn't the easiest place to find yourself an opportunistic overtake.
Lap 24.
There still is this huge train drift.
It's a massive train. It's from 4th all the way down to 13th now as Super Noodle. He's come in, obviously, to get the new tires. And, well, you look at it, the mediums, the softs, I wonder at what point, I wonder if we see any of these soft runners get themselves ahead of these medium runners. Just, I'm talking DJ, Tatsis, Undertaker. It's such... Never mind. The train is just so powerful here.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see the results as Disaster loses it. And oh my God, we've seen that one before. It was like a direct replication. He just loses it on the curb, smashes into the pit wall, loses his front wing. Someone went into him. No fault to either driver. Obviously, Disaster losing control of the car as he still is struggling. That setup has not done him any favors today whatsoever. I can't tell who went into him. Tastis definitely involved Four-door might have been as well, but Tastis no front wing there. As well as the Mercedes of... Who was that? It was Kieran, the back marker spinning around. That won't change anything, but a huge upset late in this race. And, well, I think it's too late for a VSC or a safety car to come out now, but championship leader, no points. Grenade Goran, runner-up right now, 6th place. And, well, that's a nice little addition to his total. It might even be level after this shift, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 8 points for 6th.
Yeah, I do believe you're correct in that. And if
that could be
if
tied
that is,
into next week,
that would be very intense between these two championship rivals. Grenade right now, he's looking to make it even more points as he's been hunting down XTXP lap after lap. XTXP holding on with Big Turbina. PW Jones now, Undertaker. Tight, 9 and 10. These final points paying positions. These two drivers right now wanting to ensure they get as many points as possible. And I have to say, the recovery for Undertaker in this race has been stellar, considering he did have a drive-through penalty for that jump start. Now Jones pushing through into 9th position. We'll see if they continue to do the tango, continue to do the dance through the next 2 laps. We're on the penultimate lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stryfium, of course, here from Canada, joining me for this amazing race. And I have to say, it has been a thrilling race, is Mr. Unicorn from the UK. Grenade, XTXP. Oh, it's about to really hit the fan here.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of contact between them in the S's. XTXP's driver just threw his hand up in the air a little bit. I think there was a love tap there as Grenade, a little bit of a lock up just to avoid running into the rear of XTXP. And, well, Kieran, 5-second penalty. I thought we had a full course caution there. Every time someone retires in the pits, it flashes my track map half yellow, so it's always a little bit of a false alarm there. But we lose our 6th driver of the evening, and, well, it's unfortunate he's come so far, but he was a lap down. He did have spins, and I think he's just happy to get this one over and done. As Jones, DJ side by side going to 130R, and DJ just going to let off the throttle there. Doesn't want to fight Jones here. Doesn't want to lose any time. He's got 3 seconds and he wants to hang on to the points. Well, he's got 6 seconds now because, well, that's his 2nd penalty of the evening. He should be fine though. 4-door sedan is 36 seconds behind Undertaker. And Undertaker, well, he will finish ahead of DJ unless there's a monumental issue for him. As, well, there's a parked Mercedes on the front.
What the heck
was that? MVP's car has come back on track and just parked right on the race line.
XTXP has just slid through the S's, Unicorn, the Alpine. No, he is not going to be happy about that. 14 laps on the mediums. After a stellar drive, he will fall to 10th position. He started the race in 12th.
Drift, the lead of the race, might exchange. I hate to interrupt, but Alexander's just messed up the hairpin monumentally. He went wide to defend it, and now, well, Polypunk's found the traction through turn 12 and sweeps through into the lead of the race. And they've got 1-3 seconds, but he goes round. He's lost it, and Alexander manages to avoid it. The late drama in this one has been absolutely incredible. As Trickster slides to avoid Polypunk, a great bit of driving to avoid hitting the Ferrari there, and he will get past Polypunk. He's not quite within the 3-second range he needs of Alexander there, but my goodness, what has happened in the end of this one? It has been an absolutely crazy final lap. There's 3 cars coming through 130 off. Big Tabina, Grenade, and Kane into the Casio Triangle. Alexander wins, but there's 3 cars coming through the Casio Triangle. Big Tabina's off. Grenade's just caught him on the rear. He is in the gravel. Kane will come home, and it's a double podium. He goes top. I don't think that's right, but it's a double podium maybe for McLaren. The finishing order is, I'm pretty sure it's wrong. I don't know how badly, but I'm pretty sure some level of DC has taken over there. But the last lap, what on earth have we just witnessed? Well, the last few, because you had the issue with Disaster and that big crash. Then you had the battle between the front 2, and then all of that coming through 130R and the Casio Triangle Drift. That is an unbelievable end to what has been a shining star of a race in a sea of difficulties for not just us here at the MRL, but everyone else. But What a way to round out round one here in Suzuka for the week. And there's plenty of more where that came from. Well, there's a high bar there.
Definitely
What
a high
finish.
bar. Definitely a high bar, of course. We're going to have the Tier 2 America's Division in 5 hours, just shy of 5 hours from now. Of course, that's at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That'll be at 2 a.m. for those of you in the UK. And, of course, 3 a.m. for those of you in Central Europe. Tonight, America's Tier 2 will be back here in Suzuka for that. We're going to have interviews with our top 3, hopefully, if they're available in just a moment, as well as a raid. And my, oh my, and I just want to say that was a great, great race. A big shout out there going out to everybody in the race. It did not appear there was too many issues in this one, so I just want to say, thanks to everybody for an awesome Japanese Grand Prix on our first race back after our break. Kane takes the top slot on the timing tower. However, he also set a 40.5, meaning that there's something going on there. Alexander Shirley, of course, took the win across the line. Trick Sam Polypunk 3 and 4 on the timing tower. However, it is going to be the Red Bull, McLaren, and the Ferrari on the podium after they all started within the top 3, and they raced a great, great race tonight. It was Polypunk out of those 3 that took the quickest of the laps. However, I think it was actually 4-door tonight that had Disaster came through in the end, I think, to collect the fastest lap of the campaign at 29.9. And, well, he definitely had his struggles through the race. He started in 5th, and he finishes outside of the points. That's going to cost him 2 grenade, a massive amount. But what a great, great race this was. And very excited to see how things go for the Americas Tier 2 tonight and how the Tier 3, 2, 1 divisions come through in the rest of the week. We're going to get some interviews in just a second at L.
Yeah, what a finish to that race. We do have a couple of interviews lined up in the wings, but where am I? I'm sure they'll have a few things to say. And again, the timing might be a bit off, and hopefully stewards can sort of untangle that. I don't want to say too much on the final finishing order in case it gets completely uprooted. It won't be too different, but there is definitely some discrepancies, I think, as I do believe we have our first interviewee for the evening.
Hello. To be honest, when I saw the rain, I was kind of like, oh, what the hell? I didn't do any practice around Suzuka in the rain, so I was like, what do I do? So I was kind of just like a bit worried, but it still turned out well, so I'm quite happy, to be honest. And then the penalties, and then the penalties at the end, I was like, I just got to push as much as I can and try and get P1, but I'll take P2 any day.
Chat letting me know I'm muted there, as legends they are. Thank you very much for that, of course. And, well, Trick Sam, it was a great, great drive, great race from you. Again, turbulent race. One question I think everybody's asking, was there any issues for desync with you? Did you have any issues with the connection today?
I actually didn't have any issues with desync today. The only problem that I had was about the last 3 laps, and the timing towers, how they're just absolutely screwed at the moment. That happened to me.
Alrighty,
But that was the only thing. But the desync was absolutely fine. I didn't have any of it.
Well, that's very good and important to hear. And last for me, and I don't know if Unicorn will have any questions, but that last lap was just something else. Just talk us through how it was for you, because you made a huge adjustment to try and not hit, I think it was Polypunk coming out of Spoon in the end there.
Yeah.
What was your reaction like?
Well, Brownie, I was in a VC with him and Kane, and Brownie was like, Polly and Alex, I think it was, are going to fight on the last lap, because I saw Polly was catching Alex very quickly. So I was like, okay, just stay calm and I'll push as hard as I can. And when I saw that Polly went onto the rest, I was like, oh god, he's gone straight into the middle of the racing line. So I was like, I actually had to stamp on the brakes. And then this is my first race without traction control. I always used to use medium, so I was like stamping on the power, so I had to quickly lift off again, otherwise I would have spun. So it was a quick adjustment, and I guess I was kind of lucky that I didn't spin.
Well, it was a great, great race from you. Unicorn, any questions for Sam?
Yeah, Sam, great drive, great save at the end. I know we just mentioned it there, and particularly if you're just getting adjusted to no traction control. But one thing, the whole campaign will factor qualifying into this as well for you. It was sort of up and then down, and then the race as well was sort of, you started strong, then there was the, intermediates, you went an extra lap, and then of course you come back to it in the end, you keep fighting. Just how difficult was it to just sort of keep pushing? Obviously in the end it paid off, and I'm sure it's a big relief for you, but in that race there must have been a whole host of emotions. Just how difficult was it to navigate that and keep yourself pushing to the very final, last lap?
Well, in quali, I thought I set an incredibly good medium lap time because I was only about 1/10 off Daz, who went first. So I was kind of like, oh, do I go for mediums? But then I didn't. And then on my last lap, I absolutely screwed it and put it into the gravel. So I was like, I could have got P1 because I think I wasn't even up on my lap though, but because I messed it up at turn 1. But I thought there was a lot more time, so I was like, I'll just keep pushing in the race. And in the race, I made a wrong call with going a lap extra on the mediums. Sorry, inters. So then Brownie was just like, go for softs and just push as hard as you can, and that's why I didn't. It worked out, so I'm quite happy if you ask me.
Well, Trixam, a brilliant race, and like you say, you navigated some very tricky conditions in a spectacular fashion. So congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
It's Trixam, everyone, and a big congrats to him. Now we are going to be joined by the Ferrari, Mr. Polypunk. Hello, Mr. Polypunk. Congratulations on a podium. How are you feeling?
I don't know. Sad. I the win. I had the win. Let's be honest, but
it was tough.
I little touch of the curb and I died.
It was a tough race end for you there, coming through Spoon. You had that issue. Just talk us through that final lap and how that race went for you.
The race was fun with the wet conditions at the start. Then I pitted with the virtual safety car. Yeah, I don't think it was the right call. And then when I had the pace, safety car happened. I had the penalty. Had to push, and I don't know, like the last lap happened. I found some pace, had the win, and that thing happened.
Well, it was a very, very tough end. Of course, it's a bittersweet finish for you. You had more on the table today. One thing I want to ask, I asked Trixam the same. Did you have any issues with connection or desync today in the lobby? I know that it's been a question surrounding the leagues lately. How did it affect your race today, if at all?
It was well until lap 20. The lobby started to going crazy. Like Alexander was in front of me, and I was watching him saying P2, and I was P1 behind them. Is what it's like. I didn't understand, and blue flags and something like that. But the lobby went well around lap 24. It was 4 laps of the time tower going crazy, but it was okay.
Well, we heard that from Trixam as well, and to hear it from you, sounds like it was just a lobby issue, and we'll have to hear how Alexander fared. But it was a great race, and well, this brings you into a very good position still yet for the championship. How are you looking now, coming back from the break, looking to round 7 after a podium finish today?
It's looking good. I like Britain more than I like Japan, and I didn't have that many time to practice this race, so it went well. I'm pretty happy and want to race again.
Well, congratulations, Polly, and we'll have to see you next week for another race in Silverstone, and we wish you a good week.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Polypunk, ladies and gentlemen, and now joining us for our final interview and our final podium finisher. Last but not least, most definitely, it is our race winner, Alexander. Welcome to the commentary booth. How are you feeling after Suzuka tonight?
I'm really happy. Suzuka is not one of my strongest tracks. I was really surprised by getting this win, but it was a difficult race with the rain situation and everything. It was so hard to get the right pit stops, and we really needed to think what to do. But yeah, at the end we did the right things, and we ended up P1.
Qualifying, very intense shootout there in the end to get qualifying. How did it feel to come through securing pole position here in round 6?
It felt really good. I didn't think I was gonna get it, to be honest, but I had an amazing last sector, and I think that was the one that put me on the pole position. And it was not by a lot. It was really close at the top.
It was a very, very tight margin there for the pole position, and it was a very tight finish. Of course, penalties in the end there, a little bit of drama happening with Paulie there, as well as, of course, with Trick Sam. You kind of got to escape in the end, but that last lap, very intense. Just talk us through this final last laps in your race, because you were being hunted down by not one but two very, very fast guys.
Yeah, it was a tricky last laps. I could feel the medium tires going off, and I started getting nervous, and I did some mistakes that I lost a lot of time on. So at the final lap, then I made a big mistake on one corner in the mid sector, and then Polypunk got to the side of me, and then I was like, okay, should I let him pass to take him on the last lap? And then unfortunately he spun on the curb, but that helped me, and I almost ran into him when he spun, so it was really difficult to not crash into him.
Yeah, it was definitely scary from our perspective as well. One thing I wanted to ask you, of course, after this great race, was whether or not you, on your end, suffered any issues on a network side or game bugs or anything like this. We asked the other two podium finishers as well, just because we want to get a sense of how things were for your experience and kind of talked about among the community. Do you have any issues today?
I was like, I did think I was gonna get something today, but on the track I didn't feel anything. But it was on the like 25 and 24 when the leaderboard started to buffer around. So one time I was one lap ahead of everyone, and one time Grenade Goran was leading. So that was the only problem I had, but it was no problems on track, only the leaderboard.
Well, thank you very much for giving us the indication of that. Now, last question for me, and I think Unicorn doesn't have any questions tonight, but next week, a very big round. How are you feeling for Silverstone round 7? We already heard that the other drivers are looking forward to it. Is it a track you enjoy?
I think everyone enjoys Silverstone. It has a lot of potential, and it has a lot of overtaking opportunities. We'll probably see a lot of Lewis Max battles around the track. It'll be really fun, though. I really enjoy that track and the close racing, of course.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you potentially take another podium in the Red Bull. And, well, congratulations on a victory here in Suzuka. And, well, have a great evening, Alexander. Any last remarks for the stream?
No, I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
How's Alexander, everybody? And what a win from him, and what a win, George, it was. It was a great race. It was a thrilling campaign to return to after a week break, after we saw Italy, a very iconic circuit. We take a break, we come back, we jump straight into the very intense action here in Suzuka. It was very intense with the rain, too. Love to see that dynamic come in. Man, oh man, I enjoyed every moment of it. But of course, any last regards from you before we wrap things up?
Yeah, well, that race is just a curveball after curveball. You know, congrats to Alexander, his first podium, let alone win. And, you know, he has 16 points coming into, so he comes into that midfield fight. We saw it in full swing here with that huge train. And I imagine that we'll see similar things in the other divisions as well, where, you know, you get this huge train, even though there's only one short DRS zone. Just the nature of the track, the difficult to overtake, the long straight so you can slipstream at the end of it. It really does provide some great racing, and obviously we've got it all throughout the week, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how all the other tiers tackle this very iconic and awesome track, of course.
Definitely going to be a very intense week of racing here around Suzuka. We've got the Tier 2 Americas tonight. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2 a.m. for our great friends over in the UK, and of course, 3 a.m. Central Europe. I'll be commentating that, and hope you join us in the chat. But that will be it for our coverage of the racing action tonight for Tier 4. And we will see you next week here for Tier 4 once again, if not tomorrow, same time, same place, for the Tier 3 Racing. Joining me was Unicorn. My name is Stryphium, and we will see you in the next one.